what they're supposed to do.
Standing. Well, we are at time. Amazing presentation, amazing Q&A. Thank you so much, Jillian.
People in and then hide floating controls. I'm getting better at this. There you go.
Great. Good morning. First, I'd like to, of course, thank, Wendy, Bill, and Mike for having me and allowing me to speak about the rapid deployment of business architecture. My name is Joseph O'Connick, and I work for Globe Life. Globe Life is number 596 on the Fortune 1000, number 26 in the Dallas-Fort Worth area as far as size, and happens to have their name on the new baseball stadium in Arlington, Texas, until at least 2048, I think is what they did. So unlike the previous speakers, not unlike them, we have 3,222 employees across the nation. Unlike the previous speakers, we have one business architect with one very supportive manager who happens to be in the back. His name is Andy Williams. He is the director of strategy and innovation, and I report to him. We have business architects in training, but the practice is relatively new, but it stood up very fast. And this is kind of the method that over the course of my career, whether I was a business architect or not, deploying something out and how to get it done quickly. So we go with this approach. Well, no, move. I can get to move. Where'd Bill go? It's not. Nope. No. Let me see what I can do here. There we go. So we start with what we call the 3 E's: educate, evangelize, and execute. Pretty much in that order. We like to start with the education piece, which I'll get into in a second. You need an evangelist, at least one, maybe 10, to get this done, because it is about evangelizing what you're trying to change, speaking the language of what you are trying to convey as far as value goes. And then, of course, ultimately executing, actually doing what you need to do. So when I say educate, it's about educating yourself first. Always educate yourself first. Recommended, find a guild certified training partner. We did that. And get to know the instructor, understand what you're doing, and go deep into what you are trying to study. This is as much about certification as it is learning. It is constant and it is continual in our environment for sure. Secondly, the BizBot, kind of like having the reference guide right there. Any questions that you're not getting inside of your training per se, go to BizBot, probably there, mostly and pretty much all the time. Next is what I call YouTube University. If you don't understand something, it's probably out there. It is definitely out there. I personally was going crazy with the Hoshin Connery model and said, how do I do this? Well, there's only 80 videos out there on the Hoshin Connery model. Search until you find the one that makes sense to you, because if it makes sense to you, you can take it to the next level and educate the people that you need to educate in their language so they understand the Hoshin Connery model, which I can tell you is really fun to explain, but find enough YouTube videos to do it. Secondly, and next is a guild community. I found this really, really helpful, because topics that we have or that we discuss may already be out there. And if they're not, I can leverage a question. I would also encourage, as I have done for the first time, also contribute. If you think you have an answer, contribute to it, because that means somebody else is learning. You're giving back to the communicate, so to the community. So you're educating yourself. And then, and I put this up here, LinkedIn, follow the right people. Because if you follow the people in front of us and others out here, they will send you on a rabbit trail of other people to follow, as mine has grown significantly. But you can learn from software vendors. You can learn from any of the associated relationships that are out there. And this is real important. It is, I believe that this whole thing is educating yourself continually, because it's continually evolving. You can't get behind it. Next, educate your staff. This is the fun part. First of all, that first word, collaborative, it's real important. Collaborative is as much to me about listening as it is speaking. I can absolutely talk about business architecture all day long, but if I'm not listening to the people that I am trying to educate, I'm missing out on what their language is. Translate if you can. It is really important. This all builds this slow trust, this slow value in what you're doing. The last one, or the next one, is probably the most important bullet point. Get a common vocabulary. And trust me, this is a fight. This is a fight in every business I've ever been in, because people want to call things what they want to call them. And I have an example from not from business architecture, but from another past life. If a word simply called asset, and asking people to define what an asset is. 13 people in a room trying to define what an asset is, and ultimately coming out with no answer until you have to come up with one, and it's unique. It's specific yet vague. But that's just an example from a prior life of something like that. That drives back to information concepts, by the way, strict right into it. But this is real important, because I hear, like Alliance said, you're just a glorified process analyst. Well, not really, because I'm not telling you how you're doing anything. I'm trying to explain what you're doing and why you're doing it. And that's really key to this common vocabulary. Stay out of the how, stay out of the who, stay out of the when, and stay in the why and what. There's a poem out there about that. I don't have it memorized, but I believe it starts why, what, how, where, when, who. And stay in the why and the what, because that's where the value is. Because shockingly, and in my opinion, people have gone so deep into their technologies, they've really forgotten what they are doing as a business. And that's a delicate conversation, you guys. I really want to tell you what you do as a business, but I know what I do. Okay. You know that you push F5 on a keyboard is what you know. What does F5 do? What does it do? What rules are behind it? We go back into the common vocabulary, value streams, business capabilities. Be flexible, because capabilities is a big word across the company. So sometimes you got to throw the word business in front of it, technical in front of it. So be flexible, but understand there's only a certain degree of flex that you want to give, because there is a core vocabulary. Thing about the common vocabulary is you actually have to sell it. It's not something you can mandate. It's not something you can dictate. You've got to explain why it's that way and sell it. And that's what we try to do, or what I try to do. Next is a clear scope and understanding of what business architecture is. And I say this because business architecture can look overreaching if you let it look overreaching. If you are really, really clear about what you're trying to do, more importantly, how you're trying to help them, as opposed to govern or you can take that threat away because you come at it with I would say a sense of servitude almost, if you don't mind me saying that. I am here to help you. I am here to help. I'm not here to do anything else but help, give you information that helps you make decisions. You start educating your staff like that, and all of a sudden they become a little more involved, a little more invested, a little more ready to go. And that's what we do. Next, educate your customer. So that means know your staff, know your audience. Are you going to talk to an executive? Are you going to go talk to a project team? Are you going to go talk to middle management or portfolio managers or otherwise? Each group speaks a different language. They all speak a different language. The executives sometimes, mostly in my history, are really should be hopefully stuck in the why and the what. Sometimes they go too far in the how, and that's across my education. That is across my entire career. But the portfolio managers know what has to get done, and the project level, the execution side of that, they know how hard it is to get it done. So all those languages are different, all driving back to that common language we were talking about. So this is the educate part of this. Remember, educate yourself first. You have to be able to speak. It's like speaking a different language, quite honestly. You need to be very fluent in this and be able to translate very quickly the language of your business. And then go to your staff, your other architects, your process analysts. And this, when I say staff, I'm not talking about the customers, I'm talking about the staff, because if you have to have that unified message, that unified message. And then of course, knowing your customer, what message am I bringing? Where am I bringing values to each of these levels? So that would be the educate part of what we're doing. Here's the fun one, because it's one I like. It's evangelize. Okay. This is the one I like. First, keep the language simple. Don't, and I say this from experience, you can go very academic very quick, and then this thing happens and you can watch it. The glaze starts here and it moves slowly across the eyes. It stops, it does. And you can watch them, and I think they start twitching. So you have to keep it really, really simple. And I'm not saying that discounting the intelligence of anybody, but if I walk into a French bistro that only speaks French and they start speaking French to me, this is the look. And it goes, it happens. So we don't want to do that. We want to keep this language in their language. So at least enough of them to get them interested till you can teach them the rest of the language. The next part is building the relationship with your data professionals. From the very beginning, having discussions with your data professionals. Doesn't mean you have to be in their world. Just start putting seeds in with your data professionals, because it's all going to come around eventually. It's all going to tie out. So this is to me, this is real key, because common language, most important thing to me, and data seem to go hand in hand. It's real important to have your data architecture, your data governance teams, all these teams understanding where you're about to go. You don't have to be there. Just here's where we're going. Starting the pavement of business architecture as a whole. Back to what I said before. Be consistent, but flexible. And that's hard to do. It's very hard to do. But consistent, meaning to me, hold to your core values. Flexible, if there's any fringe, let's play with it. Let's play with the fringe. It does two things. One, it establishes that collaborative relationship. It also does more than that. It builds trust, because people feel like they're part of the process. They don't feel like you're just bringing stuff to them and they have to do it. This consistent but flexible, which aligns with vague but specific, is really important. But the core things, value streams, as far as modeling goes, value streams, business capabilities, outputs, whatever you want to go in your model, you have to hold to those. You can rename them, you can rename them a little, but in concept, they need to remain the same. They need to remain the same in concept. And we think in concepts. At least we're supposed to, our group's supposed to think in concepts. Next, like I said before, when you're evangelizing, it has to be from the bottom up, from the top down, from the middle out. It does not matter. When you're building a practice, find whoever will listen to you, because that person may tell somebody else that tells somebody else. Get people excited about this, because it is something to be excited about. That's real important. When you're talking to executives, though, like I said, be real careful not to go all the way down to the execution side, because they'll go, wait, that's somebody else. Tell me how you're going to help me. Okay, here's how, right? Senior level, like I said, portfolio, senior managers, people that are controlling their multiple projects or initiatives is a better way to put that. Get with them and show them how you're going to help, right? And then naturally, all the way down to the project level. And yes, go down to the project level, because there's value in the project level. And what values in the project level? The most important one when you're building a practice, operational value, because you can leverage what you know for business architecture to help your operational value in your execution teams, even if you're not all the way to the capabilities models yet, even if you're not all the way through your value streams. The concepts that you can drive through to your operational teams with all that in mind brings the value up. And then finally, on evangelizing, I'm sure you guys have figured this out. That green box is really probably the most important box. You need people that are passionate about what they're doing. You need people that believe, evangelize, believe, same thing. You need people that believe in this. There's a technical component of business architecture, building the models, that doesn't require a whole lot of that. It still requires it. But if you want to build, and if you want to build fast, and you want an accepted practice, you have to have this across the board. You have to have this, and you have to have it quickly, very quickly. So as far as evangelizing, again, this is, to me, this is selling your practice, whether you're internal or external. That's what this is. But you have to believe. You have to believe. So there's 3 more E's, by the way. We have to execute. So we've done all this. We've gone out. We've evangelized. We've preached the language. We've done all this. Now we've got buy-in. And all of a sudden somebody goes, well, now what are you going to give me? I will tell you, once you've reached that mark, you are successful. You've done the first part of this. When somebody looks at you and says, well, it is great, love it, what are you going to give? And then, of course, anytime you execute, they multiply, hence 3 more E's, right? So you're going to explore. And what I mean by explore is be agile. When you're building your practice, you have to go where the value is. You cannot mandate, hey, we're going to do a business capabilities. Assessment without people even understanding what it is. But somebody comes to you and says, well, I'm not sure how this process, that I've heard that, is working. And you say, well, how about if we extract what you do to show you where it might not be working? Because the value in that is, you may find that it's not a tech problem. You may actually find out that it's a process problem. You may find out that it's an environmental problem. You may find out just a ton of issues that have nothing to do with the software they're dealing with. So you have to go be agile. You have to go out and find the operational value we kind of went over. Go into your project teams because they want your help. They really, really, really want your help. And plus, if you're in the project teams, as much as bottom up is very painful, if you're in your project teams, you know the details to start moving back up the ladder, back through value streams and ultimately to capabilities. I'll be honest, starting in the project space is difficult and requires a lot of work, but it can establish where you need to go very quickly because that's the operational value. Key alignments. Oh, this is fun. Start with, like I said, your data team. Get in with your technical teams, your solutions architect teams, your development teams, because guess what? They sometimes know more. And again, across the history of my career, those technical teams may know more about the business than the business does. Even more so, those technical teams may know stuff that you're missing, which is really clear to fill in those gaps. That's filling in the gaps. You need that alignment. It doesn't have to be right off the bat. It's like, just like the data team, just kind of, hey, this is what we're doing. And this is how it's going to be valuable to you guys. And all of a sudden you've planted seeds. It's about planting seeds. And then it's about watering the seeds and then watch it grow because that happens. Standardize your templates. I have more slides to show some of this stuff, but I just want to go through this. You're going to standardize your templates. This is real important because you can't show value if you don't have anything to show. Systematize your work. Once you standardize your templates, put it in a system. They'll get overwhelming if you don't. And start defining architecture scenarios. Where are we going to use business architecture? Is it a transformational effort? What type of transformational effort is it? Is it technical or is it literally a business transformation that you're doing? So those all require different levels of effort at different paces. Sell them all. Grow your practice. And my favorite, when you're be prepared to explode if you're successful. It will grow faster than you can ever imagine. So think big, start small, scale fast. And what I mean by that is think in terms from capability all the way to process, no matter where you start. Have it always in mind. Start with something really small, show the value quick, and then get ready. So going a little deeper and to explore your values. This is more of how you can do this, right? That's more of what we do. I could follow my own format here for a second. Define your purpose. Be real clear why you're doing business architecture. Don't go in and say, hey, we're just doing business architecture. Define that purpose. We have created mission statements 4 times because they evolve as well. Secondly, like I said, go where needed. This is real important. Look in the corners because everybody's in the middle. Look in the corners. What are the corners? I gave 3, but risk is a corner. Risk is a corner you can start in. They need the capabilities mapped so they can risk assess them. They need the value streams so they understand where the various types of risk can apply across the organization. Risk and compliance, even more so. How am I doing at something like, let's just say, and everybody, I think for the most part, does a terrorist checklist through OFAC because it's required when you send payments out the door. Where am I doing this? How am I doing it? What am I doing when I'm doing it? That's a risk way to build from regulation out. That's another way to go. Regulation out, by the way. Find your policies, build your stuff around that. Resiliency. This was my favorite because your business resiliency, hopefully, your business resiliency department understands the business criticality of your organization. They're going to do that. What better place to start? I need a criticality map. I need to know if I go down, which capabilities, business capabilities, technical capabilities as well, do I need to bring up as quick as possible? What a great place to start. I'm handed everything I need to go start this map to start adding value instantly, strategic value more than operational. And then find your early adopters. That one's standard. Go find the people that'll listen to you. Find the operational value. I've talked about this. Projects, digital transformations are huge for operational value. If you can get integrated into those, break down the silos of digital transformations, because when you get into them, you'll find they go much wider than what they think they do most of the time. A lot, and this is real important, align with the business analyst. Keep yourself a little separated because you're not a business analyst, but you need to speak the language regularly. You need to understand what they're working on, so they're going to feed you more to do. Quite honestly, they're going to generate more for you. Back to establishing the common language, and which we've talked about, and I cannot emphasize it enough. And then identify your opportunities quickly. Read your audience. Somebody says, "Oh, I'm having a problem with this." Stand up quick. Go, "I think I can help." Stand up quick. So put something together like this. This is not ours because it's not. But what is business architecture and why? Well, the purpose is, and I use this straight out because this is not our definition, but it relates to this, to facilitate the bridge between strategy and execution. Now, I can honestly say to a lot of people, you have to define that, right? So you have to define, what is the bridge? Where does the bridge exist? I'm on this path. Tell me where that bridge is. Where is that bridge? Define that. Be real clear. We'll get you here. Here's execution, and we're going to help build this bridge. How much of that bridge you need to build depends on your business. They may need the Golden Gate Bridge in some cases. They may need a walking path bridge. Pay attention, listen, and you will get those things from them. Next is the scope. This was probably, outside of the common language, the most important thing we conveyed. Business architecture is about the business. Conversations. Oh, we go into this system. No, you don't. What do you do? We go here. What do you do? This person does this. What do they do? It's about the business. The systems support the business. If you understand what the business does, you can align those systems, data, and everything effectively. Understand, this is about the business. The other thing it does is it keeps you out of IT's backyard, because they'll be like, "Wait, you're going to do this?" No, we're just about the business. We are, because that's what we're about. And they'll start the conversations of, how is IT involved? Let me show you how you can be involved. Seed planted, water put on, now watch it grow. And that's what happened. Deliverables, this is really important, because you get to this, what am I going to get? What physically am I going to get? Well, you're going to get your business capabilities, organizational maps. We love organizational maps, and I'll explain why in a second. And value streams, and all the cross maps that go with it. We set up templates to show people how this gives them value. How does this do that? So if I look at this, what's it going to give me? Right? And that's the end game. What's it going to give me? So, and then we did this. It's a sales deck. I'm not going to lie. It's business architecture value. Well, if I'm going to map capabilities, what am I going to get? What am I going to get? Well, senior level management is going to get a view of capabilities that can be leveraged for strategy planning. Oh, really? Okay. Now show that to me. Value streams and requirements allows the ability to identify shared functionality and process improvement opportunities. You say that to a portfolio manager. You say that to a project lead who's dealing with, they're going to go, "Really? Show me this." Better be ready to show. That's all I'm going to say, because this works. Then I put this in here separately because this is really important. You validate the value streams with the stakeholder. Why is that a separate line? Because it adds separate value. what it does is it says, hey, I've worked with the business. They understand what I gave them. And they signed off on it. They're part of the process. And so honestly, this has developed over, and I'm not kidding you, six to 9 months we've done that. So it has worked for us to talk about the value. Support the business needs analysis and prioritization, map the organization. This allows the business to do something we found a really unique, allows the business to identify common functionality. More importantly, an organization map can help you identify common data areas. So if I know how two org maps or two organizations collaborate, depend on whatever they do in their relationship, I understand there are data elements to that as well. This is really, we found that by accident, but it worked where somebody said, well, if they're collaborating, what data do they need to collaborate on? And I have led to even more value. Again, back to value, what we're trying to do. So expectations. Develop you've gotten past the evangelization, everybody's happy, develop a repeatable process. This is crucial because it goes back to the common language, goes back to the education, goes back to how do I make sure what I'm speaking French to everybody, right? I'm not speaking French here, Russian here, German here. I'm speaking French to everybody. Well, most languages are documented and they're repeatable. Same thing here. Standardize your templates, design to simplicity. This is actually hard to do, to design to simplicity, because these maps can get out of control. Design to simplicity. Why? Remember earlier, that glazed look, big map happens again. Leverage the guild standards. We do this all the time. We go to the reference model. I look at this, you're painting a picture. You start with a blank canvas, or would you prefer to have at least an outline? Or in some cases, paint by number based on where you're at. But would you prefer to have that? That's what the guild standards, what the reference models provide. We leverage them all the time. And we don't leverage one, we leverage them all, because there's information in all of them that can cross industries, in our opinion, at least. So then systematize, put it in a system. Here's why. Just like the maps can get overwhelming, the number of maps can get overwhelming, how they relate can be overwhelming. Select your system well. I can shout out to UMT 360 because that's who we use. But again, select your system, because your system is going to be what fits your business. So what's really funny about that is it leads to this. Know why and what you're doing in business architecture too, because that will help you to the right system, right? Why and because if you don't know what you're doing from a business architecture standpoint, you're not going to be able to sell the value. Why you're doing it even more so. Why being the value statement, how we're going to deliver value, or what we're going to do to deliver value. So that's what that says. Select the system that supports your methodology. Is very important. Define your architecture scenarios. I would suggest creating a catalog of scenarios. If you're coming to us for this service, it's almost like select here, I'm doing this. What are my options? What do I have to have? What is optional? So you're creating a product catalog for your business architecture. Again, back to, and you'll see this a lot, leverage the guild. There's information out there on these scenarios. Use it, start with it. If you need to modify it, but it's important. Don't try to start this stuff from the beginning. One of the things that can accelerate a practice is leveraging the guild. Actually, it's probably the most crucial thing is leveraging the guild to do this. And then of course, identify key partnerships, information technology. Here's one strategy. If you have a separate strategy group, they also need to know what you're doing because it can help them. We're here to help, not to define. We're here to give you information to help you with your strategy. We're here to give you heat maps to help you with identifying. We're here to help. And then again, of course, the early adopters. Okay, this is a mess, but this is what an org chart, this is what an org map, a sample org map looks like. But you can see the lines where we've identified future collaborations. I want to point that out. Why is that important? That's a transformation. What kind of transformation? We don't know yet, but we know it's a future transformation because we're going to establish that relationship between two business units. Again, this is not about technology. This is about two business units that want to talk to each other or work together. Well, what have I now brought to light? I need a strategy. We can start there if we need to. I need common data. We definitely want to start there. And I may need to look at systems around that as well. Do we have systems that do support this? Do I need to go get one? So this org map is really important to defining most initiatives because it's not about the organization. It's about the most important thing, the people in the organization and how they relate. How does their data share? Or better yet, you may look at this and go, why is this not talking to that? Now, all of a sudden, you found gaps. You found gaps. So these are really important things to help you drive value really quickly to stand up that practice. So taking something as simple as this and finding immediate value. Large transformational efforts, these can be huge. If you put the whole organization around that, you may find outliers or external people that have not been considered in the transformational effort. And I promise you these maps, this is a small one. They can get big. They can get big, but they're very, very important. Validate them with your business because maybe they'll see something that they want to change. This is my favorite map, by the way. Okay. Doing all that, be ready. Because if the demand will come, if you start adding value like that, it will come so fast and so hard that it could be overwhelming. Think big, which is begin with the end in mind. Don't ever start in the beginning. Begin with the end in mind. Where am I going? So everything I do maps to where I'm going. Be capability minded. What does that mean? Be capability minded means if you're starting in the value streams, because that's where you can, remember, you need to be thinking about the capabilities tied to those value streams, tied to those value stream stages so when you're designing it, you're capability minded. We don't design, I don't design anything without considering the capability. And the other thing it does is if you're starting in that operational value, you by default are building your capabilities map and you don't even know it. Now I can take not a blank canvas. I now have a picture to show for somebody to tell me whether or not I'm doing this right. The other thing that's real important on the capability side, I found this in value streams, is duplicate capabilities throughout a value stream show inefficiencies. More importantly, duplicate, and I found this most of the time, speaking off the cuff a little bit, duplicate capabilities side by side means that you've decomposed your value stream too much. Because you're going step one, step two. They're all one step if I'm doing the same capabilities side by side, in my opinion. It's my opinion, really. So start small. Projects, tiny initiatives. Stay enterprise focused. Everything has to be with the enterprise in mind. So when you're thinking about this, you're thinking always about data, technologies, whatever you business altogether to understand what you're building can be understood by all. Think enterprise and start small projects. It's a good place. It's a painful, but good place to start because you're going to get your business processes, which can extract. You can extract what you need from that, and you can add operational value. Small initiatives where you get to start at a little higher level and opening light. I say this as you're building light digital transformations. Go for the big one, and you could fail because it's all about readiness. Is all not your readiness, your company's readiness. Scale fast. Understand the business of business architecture and strategy. Know why you do what you do and understand it. And then prepare for the demand. And what I mean by prepare for the demand is not staff up. Be prepared to say no. That's the hardest thing to do. Be prepared to say, look, I've got 10 things in front. And be prepared. Get that demand built up to where then you can actually do that. All right. So I have 3 minutes. I didn't know. So the last but not least, well, I will show these slides. So if you want them, we have guiding principles. Using a common language, start simple, develop over time. I'll go back if you need me to. And then ultimately, equal representation, evangelize in all levels. That's real important. And organizational change. I can go through this real quick, but the most important thing is temper that change. Look long. Don't try to do too much too quick. Look long. Find value. And ultimately, my favorite saying in the world, do not let perfection be the enemy of good enough. This is a continually evolving practice and passion. Don't let it get in the way. You hope to be perfect. It never will be because it's always changing. Anyways, I think I'm out of time.
We're gonna, do I have voice here? Okay, we're gonna take a couple of questions. Ruth, is there anything online question wise?
Sorry about the overrun.
Do you have? Hello.
I can hear you.
Talk loud. Should
Do you have an example as to how to keep language simple without sounding too technical as in business architecture language?
Well, that is actually a tough question because that really depends on your audience. But it's as much talking about it as it is defining it. The definition is important. Business capability. So if you read business capability, the definition may be long. You may say something as simple as the business capability is what we are able to do. Some people will understand that. Some people don't. We have the ability to do this. That's it. Something simple. That's what we have. We have the ability. Not, this is the definition of a capability. I always find trying to relate it back to the person you're talking to is the best way. You are able to do this. Talk to a solutions architect and you can give them the definition or a tech and they'll go, I get it. Talking to somebody who doesn't dive that deep, this is what we're able to do. Give me an example. Come loaded with examples. That's my answer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great presentation. The question is, you're a small, very small team, right? So how do you see your team evolving in the long term as a business architecture?
Well, it's going to go directly with the demand, right? Things just like anything, when you start small, you have to be ready for demand. If we continue to add value, if anybody continues to add value, you then have demand. Moving people